Hey everybody, welcome back to Kaulig Nation, your one-stop shop for all things Kaulig Racing, Dinger Nation, SVG Nation, and more. Our question for this video is, where do you expect SVG and AJ Allmendinger to finish at the Xfinity Darlington race this weekend? Let us know down in the comment section down below. It should be noted that there are a lot of Cup Series drivers and part-time cars in this race, so it might be a little more difficult of a race than it typically is. Let's dive into the nitty-gritty of this video, though. This Saturday, 10 a.m., we are going to get an announcement about the Kaulig Racing 16 Xfinity car. The rumored name that's been out there the most that we've seen, and we've talked to some reporters that I don't have permission to name, but everyone seems to be on the same wavelength that this is going to be Christian Eckes, who him and Daniel Dye, who just got named to the other Kaulig Xfinity car, are conveniently teammates in the Truck Series as well. So it'd be an interesting addition if it is Eckes, which we don't know for sure. Guys like Couch Racer, definitely heavily hinted at it. Breakhard full on put it out there. We've talked to two separate NASCAR reporters that both think it's Christian Eckes, but they've all said that, they don't know for certain. They just think it is. And I think when you're looking at possibilities for that Kaulig 16 car, they're going to go young, given just things that Chris Rice has said, things AJ Allmendinger has said, which makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you go young? It's your Xfinity Series. You're trying to build up your team. AJ's moving back up to Cup. We're going to find out what's happening with the 31 ride. We'll speculate on that a little bit at the end of this video, but we'll have a different video out tomorrow for that one. Also, like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all to keep up with all of our content. For me, Christian Eckes is a big get. You lost Chandler Smith. Now, Eckes doesn't bring the amount of funding that Chandler Smith does. Eckes really doesn't bring any funding, which is why he hasn't gotten a ride to this point. In terms of pure talent, though, he has a ton of it. He has evolved and grown year over year. In my opinion, he's been hands down the best truck driver in the Truck Series this year, even more so than Corey Heim, in arguably lesser equipment as well. So I think that's important. He'd be a huge ad for Kaulig. You have a pay-to-play guy in Josh Williams, and that's not to, sound ignorant towards Josh, but he is a pay-to-play guy. And then you have Daniel Dye, who definitely has some upside, and I think he's more of a long-term prospect, someone that could probably be with your Xfinity program for as long as Justin Haley was. But Daniel Dye brings funding, right? So he's going to walk in there with probably a dozen or more races of his own funding. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than that. I mean, he already has 10 races this year of his own funding. And so that helps. When you have funding, it helps. It makes your ability to land a ride easier. They had Ryan Truex on the DBC podcast this week. He spoke about how hard it is to put together even a full season of Xfinity funding, let alone Cup. It's not easy, guys, which is why he hasn't run a full season. But he takes the money that he does have, and he goes and runs a few races for Joe Gibbs. With Daniel Dye, he's going to end up, I believe it's a multi-year deal. His partners are coming with him, Champion Containers, and there's the Race to Stop Suicide and a couple others. So that 10 car is going to be very well funded. And in my opinion, when you look at that on paper, and we know AJ Allmendinger has a new partner that has not been announced, it's going to be a long-term partner with Kaulig Racing. That partner is supporting AJ's move to Cup next year. Now, we don't know who that is, but that gives you a funded car there between whoever the new partner is, Celsius, Campers Inn, and whoever else is going to stay on board. It's probably some of the Kaulig companies, obviously. You're fully funded with Josh Williams. You're probably going to be, very well funded with Daniel Dye. In my opinion, now this allows them to go out and get someone who doesn't have very much funding, if any, and have Leaf Filter, have Action Industries, have even Ellsworth show back up on the car, and many other Kaulig companies. And to me, that all signs point at Christian Eckes at that point. I'm sure Chevy would like to keep Christian Eckes in their camp. And if you're getting Eckes, preferably with no outs on the deal and a multi-year deal, like, we're talking about a guy that could be in your Cup program, come Daytona 500 2026, right? 2027 might be a little more realistic, but it's very possible Eckes only spends 1 year in Xfinity and then moves up. Maybe 2 at the most. I'm hoping for a 3-year deal if it's him. Other guys that I wouldn't sleep on, though, Chris Rice spoke very positively about Harrison Burton, full on admitted to having discussions with him about Kaulig rides. I would think personally, given the Dex Imaging Funding, who have already sponsored Harrison 10 times this season as the primary sponsor, would give him a real shot at the 31 ride. I know Bob Pockras has basically only speculated, for a bit he was speculating on Daniel Hemrick, Ty Dillon, or Christian Eckes, but I believe Eckes is going to the Xfinity ride. And if not, then Eckes is going to land somewhere else, and it will be a big miss for Kaulig if that happens. But Harrison Burton, to me, is more of a cup option. Now, if Saturday rolls around and Harrison Burton's named to the 16, I'll be a little bit upset, because I think in terms of long-term for your future, Christian Eckes has a lot more upside than Harrison Burton, but Harrison Burton just won the Daytona night race, right? So, he had some help and some fortune to do that, but Harrison Burton ran very well at Joe Gibbs Racing. That being said, a lot of people run well with Joe Gibbs Racing. I like Harrison Burton. I think he'd be a positive step for this team. I don't think I would choose him over Christian Eckes, though, in the 16 Xfinity ride. We'll talk more about Harrison Burton in tomorrow's video. The other guys that I think are contenders is Nick Sanchez. He's in the Chevy camp. And Tyler Ankrum. I think both of those guys would be, for me, Tyler's more along the lines of Daniel Dye. I don't think Tyler brings any of his own funding. And I don't know how much Nick Sanchez brings, if any. So they're all kind of in the same camp as Christian Eckes. Any one of the three could be named, but if I'm ranking them, I'm probably going Eckes, Sanchez, Ankrum. Either way, Kaulig, Ryan and I have been saying for a while now, Kaulig needs to add some more legitimate prospects to their system to allow them to have a brighter future. I think they will. We're 3 days and change away from finding out who this driver is. I think my money's still on Christian Eckes, but at one point I was like 95% sure. Now I'd say I'm about 60% sure that it's Eckes, which is obviously a big drop. But I hope they do the right thing for sure, and I think Christian Eckes would be the right call. That being said, if you're adding a Sanchez or an Ankrum to your team, you're still deepening your prospect pool. I think Sanchez is a little better than Daniel Dye is at this point. And I think Ankrum is probably right around Daniel Dye, maybe a little worse. And honestly, less experience, obviously. So I'd probably even give Daniel Dye the edge on Ankrum. On the SVG front, it should be noted during his introductory conference, he mentioned that he would run, more than likely be running races for Kaulig Racing in the Xfinity Series next season. He made it seem very much like a sure thing. SVG is not limited to 5 races a year like most people are, because he doesn't have 3 years Cup experience. Interestingly enough, Chris Rice didn't comment on that at all this morning on a Sirius XM hit. So my guess is SVG, I'm not saying he spoke at a turn, but he's probably speaking before there's anything in the books, because anything that SVG drives with them is probably going to have to be funded by Trackhouse. And my guess is that'll be something that gets announced at a much later date. It's also possible that SVG just might not be in the 97 for the Xfinity Series. We know AJ Allmendinger is going to run 5 races in Xfinity next year. He's going to get a chunk of road courses, probably the Nashville Superspeedway as well. He's probably going to share that vehicle with SVG. But my guess is Kaulig and Trackhouse aren't close to an official deal on that. So I still wouldn't rule out the possibility that SVG could run with Junior Motorsports next year in the Xfinity Series. But the fact that he came outright and spoke about it in the news conference tells me that they're pretty confident a deal is going to get done. But I think, Chris has learned from maybe speaking out a little too early. And, we're quickly coming to an end here. Silly season speculation for Kaulig. We got the Daniel Dye announcement. We got the AJ Allmendinger announcement. Josh Williams will be returning in the 11 next year. We're going to get the 16 announcement this weekend for Xfinity, which we mentioned. For me, I think it's Eckes, Sanchez, or Ankrum. Outside shot at Harrison Burton. Again, I think he'd perform very well in that car. I just think that he's more of an option for the 31 at this point. And I do think long-term, as I mentioned before, not Sanchez, pardon me, Eckes is the better bet there. So we'll see what happens. I do think SVG is going to run with Kaulig. I don't think SVG would have blurted that out without, having at least a verbal agreement in place. I'm just not sure it'll be the 97. I know he ran the 97 this year because it was a full year. It wouldn't shock me if it was the 61. It wouldn't shock me if it was the 14. We'll see what number they end up choosing going forward. Tune into tomorrow's video. We're going to discuss the Kaulig Cup options. Zane Smith, seemingly ousted by Ford, blocked from going to FRM. Sounds like Chandler Smith might have that ride at this point in time. If so, congratulations to him. But we're going to go over all the Kaulig 31 Cup ride possibilities for next season. So yeah. Also, let us know down in the comment section below what you thought of SVG being named to the 88 and the car picture that I posted on the group. If you haven't seen it, or pardon me, on the YouTube page, if you haven't seen it, looks mighty sharp to me. Yeah, that's going to do it for us in this video. Keep a smile on that face. Like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all. Remember that we are doing a live stream for Watkins Glen, Atlanta, and the Roval. I'll see if I can fit more in there. Just depends. I'm going to have to work with Ryan on scheduling. And our channel's monetized now. So if you want to come out to a live stream and donate to the channel and have some fun and just sit down and watch some NASCAR with us, that'd be excellent. Darlington this weekend. Enjoy last race of the regular season for the Cup, guys. We'll see you there.